Okay, so let's dive in. We are looking at something today that's going to be really relevant, I think, to a lot of people out there thinking about getting some dental work done.
Mm-hmm.
And especially those who are, well, going the paid route, like not relying on any sort of national healthcare system or anything like that.
100% that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got this document, and it is, let's see, the title is Regulations on the Warranty Obligations of the Provider Under the Paid Medical Services Agreement.
Got you.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Mm.
But that's kind of the world we're in, I guess, when we talk about these sorts of formal agreements.
Mm.
Now, this is an appendix. Appendix number 1, to be exact. And it goes along with a real agreement, this paid medical services agreement, number 9598.
Okay.
And it's dated March 29th, 2025. So very recent.
Uh-huh.
And it's here in Moscow.
All right.
So this is between a specific dental clinic. It's called Hogobale, which I love because it translates to like Dr. Preobrazhensky.
Yeah.
Directly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Straightforward.
Yeah.
No messing around. And the patient in this case, this is like a real person, Kieran Liv Alexandrovich.
Okay.
So our mission, if you will, today is to really extract what this all means in terms of guarantees. Like, what are they actually promising when you sign on the dotted line for paid dental work?
Yeah, and that's the key thing, right? Like, what are you actually getting in return for your money?
Totally. And not just what they're offering, but also what's not on the table, what's not covered. Because that can sometimes be the most important part.
Absolutely. I think the fine print is where they bury all the really juicy stuff.
Totally. So let's unpack this thing. I think a good place to start is right at the beginning, section 1.1 of this document. And, I was surprised, actually. It doesn't jump right into the specifics about materials or like how long a filling is supposed to last.
Right.
It starts with kind of the overall approach, the foundational principles, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like what they say they're committing to in a broad sense.
Right. And the first thing they hit me with is they guarantee they're going to organize and perform all the medical activities by the book.
Meaning?
Meaning according to Russian law and the established medical standards.
Gotcha. So like making sure they're following all the rules and regulations.
Exactly. Like using approved methods for everything from preventing problems to diagnosing them to actually treating them.
And presumably the same goes for the materials they use, like
Mhm.
medications, devices, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything has to be authorized, and they make a specific point of guaranteeing the safety of the service.
Okay. So step one, they're saying, we'll do things by the book, safely, and with all the proper stuff.
Exactly. And they also guarantee that their personnel are all qualified, like they've got the training and all that.
Makes sense. You'd kind of hope that's a given, though, right? Going to a dentist and hoping they know what they're doing.
Yeah, you would think. But it's interesting, this section actually points you to a whole other agreement. Number 10-278 from August 6th, 2024. And it says, for a more complete list of their obligations, go check that out.
So this document is like a piece of a bigger puzzle then.
Right.
Like they're layering these agreements
Right.
one on top of the other.
Exactly. Okay, so they've laid out kind of their commitment to operating professionally.
Yeah.
But then almost right away in section 1.2, they bring in a really important element.
Mm.
You, the patient.
Okay. Interesting. Like how you factor into all this.
Yeah, they make it clear that the success of any dental treatment, it's not all on them. It's not just about them doing their part.
Makes sense. Like you can't just waltz in, get a procedure done, and then go eat a bag of candy and expect everything to be fine.
Right. And they even refer back to a specific clause in the main agreement, clause 4.2.3. It apparently spells out all the ways you're expected to cooperate.
So it's a partnership then.
Yeah, totally. They do their part, but you've got to hold up your end of the bargain, too.
That makes sense. But so, I mean, does that mean there's no guarantee of a positive outcome? If it depends partly on me.
Well, that's exactly what section 1.3 gets into. And this is where they start talking about the limits of what they can guarantee.
All right. So what, like, are they saying they can't promise you'll leave with perfect teeth?
It's kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
They talk about how dental health outcomes, like achieving a certain level of oral health, it's not as straightforward as, say, fixing a broken bone.
Right.
It's not always a clear-cut, like, you do this and you get that result.
Yeah, everyone's mouth is different, right? And
Yeah.
bodies react in different ways.
Exactly. And they say that even with the best techniques, the latest technology, they can't 100% guarantee a positive result every single time.
Wow. So They're being upfront about the fact that there are limitations.
Yeah, and they even list out the range of possibilities, like it could be a full recovery. That's
Yeah.
obviously the ideal scenario.
Right.
But it could also be no change, or even, unfortunately, things could get worse.
Okay, so they're setting realistic expectations from the get-go.
Totally. They're basically saying, we're going to do our absolute best, but we can't control everything.
Right. So up to this point, the guarantees are more about the quality of care you'll receive,
Yeah.
not necessarily about a guaranteed perfect outcome.
Exactly. But then things shift a little bit. We get to section 1.4, and this is where they start talking about the things they can actually guarantee.
Okay, so what, like specific procedures?
Well, more like the tangible results of those procedures.
Tangible meaning.
The physical stuff, like the implants, the prosthetics, the crowns and bridges, orthodontic appliances, fillings, and restorations.
Ah, okay, so the actual materials and devices they put in your mouth.
Exactly. And
Okay.
section 1.5 clarifies that this is where the warranty and service life terms really come into play.
So essentially they're saying they can guarantee those physical items will function as intended for a certain period.
Right, like they won't have manufacturing defects and they'll do what they're supposed to do as long as you use them properly.
That makes sense. So like a crown shouldn't just randomly crack in half if it was made properly.
Right. But, and this is a big but, there's a really important qualification here.
Oh, what's the catch?
They call these warranties approximate. Like, the word they use is achorio, which basically means indicative.
Okay. And why is that?
Because they can't fully account for how your body will react.
Right. Everyone's different.
Totally. So the warranties are based on, like, dental literature and general practices, but they can't predict how your specific biology will interact with those materials over time.
So for example, if I get a crown and it's perfectly fine, but then my gums recede because of, I don't know, my own health or whatever, that might not be covered under the warranty of the crown itself.
Exactly. And section 1.6 really drives home this point about your role. They say that how long the work actually lasts, a lot of times it goes beyond the stated warranty periods. But it all depends on how well you stick to their recommendations.
So like how well you brush, whether you floss correctly, maybe avoiding certain foods.
Exactly. They say they'll give you standardized instructions on all that, what to do before and after treatment, how to take any medications, and how often to come in for checkups.
So maintaining the warranty is partly up to me, essentially.
Yeah, there's a lot of personal responsibility involved. And then we hit section 1.7, and this is where things get even more interesting.
In what way?
Because the warranty periods can actually change depending on the initial state of your dental health.
Okay, so if I come in with a mouth full of problems, I'm not going to get the same warranty as someone with perfect teeth.
Pretty much. They use this thing called the DMFT index.
DMFT.
It stands for decayed, missing, or filled teeth.
Okay, so like a measure of how much dental work you've already had.
Exactly. And the standard warranty periods, the ones they list out, they apply to people with 12 or fewer DMFT teeth.
So those are folks who are starting with a relatively healthy mouth.
Right. But if you have between 13 and 18 DMFT teeth, the warranty gets reduced by 30%.
Whoa. Okay.
And if you've got more than 18, it gets cut in half. 50% reduction.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. It basically means they're acknowledging that the foundation they're working with matters. Like, your existing oral health plays a big role in how long things will last.
That makes sense, I guess. If you've got a history of problems, you're probably more likely to have issues in the future, no matter how good the dentist is.
Right. Okay, so we know the warranty can vary depending on your dental history. But then section 1.8 lays out the things you absolutely have to do to keep those warranties valid.
Like what?
Well, first up, you got to get your teeth professionally cleaned every single year. And not just anywhere. You have to do it at Dr. Preobrazensky.
So they're mandating that you use their services for hygiene.
Yeah, and you have to schedule it through their call center. It's like a very specific requirement.
Okay, interesting. And when does this yearly cleaning schedule start? Like from day you sign the agreement?
No, it kicks in from the day they fit you for a prosthetic device,
Yeah.
like a crown or a bridge. That's day one of your annual hygiene countdown.
Okay, so once they put in a permanent fixture, the clock starts ticking on those yearly cleanings.
Exactly. Every 365 days, boom, you're back in the chair for a cleaning. And your treating doctor can adjust the date a little bit, and you can even agree on a different date with them.
So there's a bit of flexibility.
Yeah, but you can only change it by 30 days max. So you can't just decide to get your cleaning 6 months later or anything like that.
So those yearly cleanings at their clinic, those are non-negotiable if you want to keep your warranty.
Pretty much. Okay, so that's the general rule, but now let's get into the specifics. Section 1.8 breaks down the actual warranty periods for different types of treatments.
All right, hit me with it. Let's start with fillings. Those are pretty common, right?
Yeah, definitely. So for fillings, they have different categories based on where they are in your mouth. For class 1 and 2 fillings, those are usually on the chewing surfaces of your back teeth. And then there's class 3, 4, and V. Those are more for the front teeth and near the gum line. All those types, they get a 1-year warranty.
1 year, okay. Not super long.
No, not really. And here's the kicker. If your oral hygiene isn't up to snuff, they cut that warranty in half.
Seriously. So if I don't brush and floss like a maniac, my filling warranty gets slashed.
It's brutal, right? Even something as basic as a filling, your daily habits directly impact the warranty.
Okay, well, noted. What about the more heavy-duty stuff, like crowns and bridges?
Okay, so that falls under orthopedic dentistry. And let's see, veneers, inlays, onlays, overlays, and pinlays, they all get a 1-year warranty.
1 year again.
Yep. Same goes for metal ceramic crowns, zirconium dioxide crowns, and composite crowns, whether they're on implants or your natural teeth, 1 year.
Okay, what about temporary stuff? Like if they need to put in a temporary bridge while they're making a permanent one?
Right, good question. So temporary acrylic bridges, the ones they use during the adaptation period, those have a shorter warranty, 6 months.
6 months.
Same for
right.
temporary frameless acrylic bridges, 6 months. But then the permanent ones, whether they're metal, ceramic, zirconium dioxide, or composite on implants or natural teeth, those all go back to the 1-year warranty.
All right, so 1 year seems to be the standard for most of those permanent restorations.
Yeah, pretty much. And removable dentures, like complete or partial dentures, they also get 1 year.
What about the little parts that hold those removable dentures in?
Oh, good point. So the lock elements, the metal parts are covered for a year, but the acrylic or composite parts, those only get 6 months.
Okay, interesting. So even within the same device, different components can have different warranties.
Right. And then you've got the framework constructions, like the base for some partial dentures, cast frameworks and milled frameworks, those also get a year.
So 1 year is the magic number for a lot of this orthopedic stuff.
Yeah, seems like it. Now, surgical dentistry, specifically implantology, that's a whole other ballgame.
Right, because that involves actually implanting something into your jawbone.
Exactly. And the implant itself, the titanium screw, a lot of times that comes with an indefinite warranty from the manufacturer.
Definite, like forever.
Well, in theory, yeah. But the surgeon's work, the actual procedure of putting that implant in, that gets a 1-year warranty if it's done at Dr. Priya Prasensky.
Okay, so they stand behind their work for a year. What happens if the implant just doesn't take, though? Like if my body rejects it?
Well, if it happens before they attach a prosthetic tooth to it, like a crown, they say they'll reimplant it if it's safe, and there are no medical reasons not to.
Okay, so one do-over.
Yeah, but if it gets rejected a second time, or if they say reimplantation just isn't feasible after the first rejection, or if it gets rejected after they've already put the crown on, then they'll refund the cost of the implant.
Okay, that's something at least.
But there's a catch. To get that reimplantation or the refund, you have to go through a whole examination at their clinic, and you have to give them the rejected implant.
So they want to examine the evidence. Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, this is all assuming you've been taking good care of your mouth. If your oral hygiene is bad or you don't follow their instructions, the implant warranty is gone.
Right. No surprises there. Okay, what about braces and things like that? Orthodontics.
So for orthodontic appliances, removable or not, the warranty covers the whole time you're actively getting treatment, unless you and the clinic agree to something different upfront.
That makes sense. Because it's an ongoing process, right? It's not like a one-time procedure.
Exactly. Okay, so we've gone over all the things that are covered, but now let's talk about what's specifically excluded.
Uh-oh. Here comes the fine print.
It's a pretty long list, actually. Section 1.9 lays it all out.
Hit me with it.
All right, so most temporary orthopedic stuff, removable or not, is out. No warranty on those.
Okay.
Same for plastic non-removable constructions and adhesive bridges.
Makes sense, I guess. Those are kind of meant to be temporary anyway.
Right, and then those flexible wires or tapes they sometimes use to stabilize loose teeth, those are excluded too.
Okay, what are those called again?
Flex arches and adhesive tapes for periodontal splinting.
Right. So basically, temporary fixes aren't covered.
Exactly. And then there's all kinds of dental jewelry and those surgical fixation elements like screws and brackets.
Okay, so basically cosmetic stuff and internal hardware, no warranty on those.
Right. And here's an interesting one. If you straight up refuse the warranty in writing, like if you sign a form saying you don't want it, then it's obviously void.
So you can opt out.
Yeah, if you're feeling really confident, I guess.
Or reckless, maybe?
Maybe. And then a couple more. Lock attachment sleeves, those are the matrices on removable dentures. And relining, which is when they adjust the fit of a denture.
So ongoing maintenance stuff isn't really covered.
Yeah, looks like it. Okay, so we've covered the exclusions, but there are even more things that can mess with your warranty.
Like what?
Your overall health, for one. Section 1.10 says that if you have certain systemic diseases, the warranty periods can be reduced or even completely voided.
Yikes. So if you've got underlying health issues, you might be out of luck.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
They specifically mention rheumatic diseases, diabetes, cancer, and some vitamin deficiencies.
So anything that could affect your mouth, basically.
Right. It all comes down to that dental maxillary system. That's your teeth, jaws, and all the surrounding tissues.
Okay, what about accidents and things like that? Stuff that's out of the dentist's control.
Section 1.11 is all about that. Any damage from external impacts, no warranty coverage.
What do you mean?
Injuries, biting on something super hard, exposure to chemicals, heat, radiation, all that stuff.
So if I get in a fight and lose a tooth, they're not replacing it for free.
Probably not, no. And if your work environment is hazardous, like if you're exposed to stuff that could hurt your teeth, that could void the warranty too.
So they're drawing a line between what they're responsible for and what's beyond their control.
Exactly. Oh, and one more biggie. Bruxism.
Bruxism.
Teeth grinding. Even if you've had treatment for it, it voids the warranty.
Seriously, why?
I guess because that constant grinding can damage even the strongest dental work.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so this is all a lot to take in. It seems like they're really putting a lot of emphasis on the patient's role in maintaining the warranty.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a two-way street. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about patient information and rights. Sections 1.13, 1.14, and 1.15 cover all that.
Right, so what kind of rights do I have as a patient besides, not getting my teeth drilled for no reason?
Well, first off, they have to give you all the necessary information about any proposed treatment in a way you can understand.
So no medical jargon they don't explain.
Right. They have to explain your diagnosis, the prognosis, the different treatment options, the risks, the alternatives, the consequences of doing nothing, and the likely outcomes.
Wow, that's a lot of information.
It is. And they have to provide it both verbally and in writing on informed consent forms that you'll sign.
So no sneaking anything past you.
Exactly. And then what if you have a legitimate complaint about the services?
Yeah, like if something goes wrong and you think it's their fault?
Section 1.14 says that if you have justified claims about the quality of the services, you've got all the rights laid out in Russian consumer protection law.
So they can't just brush you off.
Nope. And they even say that information about that specific law is available at their clinic so you can read up on your rights.
Good to know. So I guess what we've learned here is that these guarantees, these warranty obligations, they're really complicated. It's not just a simple, this will last for X amount of time kind of deal.
Totally. It depends on the type of treatment, your own hygiene and follow-up care, even your medical history.
And while they do offer specific warranties for things like fillings and crowns, there are a lot of conditions attached.
Right. And in the end, they can't guarantee a perfect outcome every time. Biology is just too complex.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what I think is really interesting is how much emphasis they put on the partnership between the dentist and the patient. Like both sides have to hold up their end of the bargain for things to work out.
Absolutely. These warranty obligations, they're really a reflection of that shared responsibility.
Exactly. So for everyone listening out there, think about this. How does this whole idea of warranty obligations change the way you think about paid medical services, especially dental care?
Yeah, and what does it tell you about the idea of guarantees in healthcare in general, where outcomes aren't always predictable? It's definitely something to ponder the next time you're talking to your dentist about treatment options. Thanks for diving into this with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, until next time.